maybe they'll be feeling more comfortable going into game number 2, everyone. Picks and bans are ready. This is Dignitas versus Space Station Gaming number 2. Fine, okay. What do you want to see different from Space Station here?
I think that their draft was pretty good. I just think they messed up their snowball because, like we talked about, they had pressure in basically every lane, and they got a big lead off of it, especially when Aquarius rotated over to Gold Fury. He got like a big 3-man Cerberus ultimate, and they got Gold Fury and a lot of pressure off that in the map. So I'm perfectly content with them playing the same playstyle. They just have to clean up around Fire Giant and make sure that they snowball correctly.
And it looks like we're having the same banning phase here. Like you said, it doesn't seem like Space Station is really going to be changing anything, but Dignitas, that start was a little shaky. Maybe their comp was better late game, so Space Station's going to try and focus on more early game comp. What is Dig going to have to pick and ban here?
Dignitas is going to need to put a little bit more pressure in their duo lane, I think, because they not only had the Erlang in the jungle, but it felt counterintuitive to bring that Erlang when you looked at the rest of Dignitas' draft, because all of their lanes, mid, duo, solo, it didn't matter. They had no pressure in comparison to Space Station, and that was another big reason why Space Station were able to pull so far ahead and have so many of those early game engagements go in their favor.
They also waited to draft their duo lane. They knew that the Space Station was going to have Sylvanas support, and Dignitas last game waited to draft the Neja and Chiron, and they basically drafted into a losing matchup. So I'm interested in why they want to wait and then draft a losing matchup. I think that they should look for maybe a potentially better matchup, or at least a matchup that stalemates basically in lane.
So what matchup, what god do you want to see then?
It definitely depends on what Space Station picks. If they're going to prioritize Sylvanas again, then I think Dig should maybe look for something something like Cerberus support, or something that can just easily punish Sylvanas.
Wow, Chiron being first picked here. Why is that?
Chiron could be a first pick because there's possibilities, I think, for a double Hunter draft to go through from Space Station. I am not sold on this being Chiron for BaRRaCCuDDa just yet. Space Station have been doing or dabbling in a lot of these double Hunter compositions lately.
Yeah, and Ven is definitely very comfortable on the Chiron, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him pick that up. But BaRRaCCuDDa could also play it, and I think that they're going to prioritize it here because they know Dig wants to play it. They know that Dig really want to play it, but they also see that Erlang is going to be the enemy jungle or support or something like that, so they can always cleanse the Erlang taunt.
Same picks going through Baron Samedi there on Dignitas' side. How did Baron do in last game?
You didn't really notice he was there.
He
like existed in the moments where Dignitas were clearly winning the team fights, but outside of that, he was kind of just a target for Andinster to try and abuse throughout the early game portion. So again, I really just want to see Dignitas, if they're going to draft the lack of pressure to go alongside of the Erlang, then they definitely need to make sure that they are just playing a little bit more passive and not looking for those early game initiations.
Game 1, I was asking you guys about that Chang'e ban, and there it is. What can Chang'e provide for Space Station in this current lineup?
Well, it fits well with the double Hunter comp that we were hinting at. And also, they know that Dignitas is probably going to ban it, and Aqua is very, very comfortable on Chang'e. And also, it allows them to clean up those Fire Giant fights, because a lot of times what happens is you get poked and you're afraid to either pull the Fire Giant or back. But Chang'e, with her heals and her good initiation and her low cooldown, she's able to.
If you get that ult on all 5 of them, man, that can be a devastating Chang'e ult there. Wow, Finver ban and Naja ban. So it looked like they actually were a little bit worried about Trixtank's Naja there.
Yeah, those are both support bans. They're afraid of because they're basically both really high pressure assassins, or at least kill pressure. Like we talked about last game, they didn't really have clear pressure, so that was kind of the issue there.
And we saw Finver support so much during those placement rounds. Why are we seeing him kind of recently and not during the early part of the season?
Teams like to experiment a little bit more so when the big events come up, and I think that was a big reason why Fenrir started actually being toyed with a little bit more so, because he does have a lot of early game pressure, especially from the support aspect. The only downside to him really is if you fail that red buff invade, then that might just be it for the game.
Yeah, Fenrir definitely falls off in the mid game. He can go Lona's Mask, which is an item that was introduced this season, and it makes you really, really tanky. And most Guardians and Warriors aren't allowed to get the items, so that's part of the reason he's also picked, just because he can be unkillable late game.
In the second phase of picks here, we do see little changes now. We got Artio, Ullr, and oh, your favorite, it's Kuzenbo.
I don't even know what to say right now. He's definitely he is definitely a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure. And I think that this could also put a little bit of a damper on Space Station's double Hunter composition for sure. Kuzenbo, although that means that it's probably going to be Baron in the support role, Kuzenbo for solo. I have a hard time envisioning Trixtank on that Kuzenbo support.
He did bring out Neja support last game, so we never really know, but it's definitely a hit to Space Station's draft, because Dignitas obviously realized that Space Station are leaning towards that double hunter comp. But at the same time, I really like the Artio pickup because it kind of cancels out Thoth's ability to be really aggressive with his dash, Erlang the same way, and Ullr with no CC immunity.
See, I saw BaRRaCCuDDa laughing, and I was like, why is he laughing? Is he laughing because he's going to pick something weird? I want to see the B, man. When was the last time we saw BaRRaCCuDDa on AMC?
It's so unlikely. I think Season 4 was probably the last time we ever really got a chance to witness AMC in action. Amu's and Cobb just doesn't have the survivability that you're looking for throughout a lot of these team fights, and there's just so much pressure from Dignitas that they can put onto this AMC if they are to go through with it. I have a heavy feeling that BaRRa is going to end up switching this last minute.
Okay, looking at Dignitas' comp right now, fine, okay, how do you think they're going to be playing differently? Or are they just going to do what they did last game and wait for the late game?
I think they're going to play pretty similarly, but Ullr instead of the Chiron I think is a big deal because Ullr has a lot more kill potential early on, because he has 2 abilities with his switch stance. But they are going to switch to Hachiman, which makes a lot more sense. Hachiman's very, very safe compared to AMC.
So, Taka, what does a double hunter provide for a team, especially going up against Dignitas here in the second game?
Well, Spacestation already showed that they just want all of their focus in the early and mid game to be towards those buff invades. Double hunter, if you're able to get them online, it is very difficult to actually prevent this from stripping away all the early game objectives, all the early game global farm, and I think Dignitas, since Spacestation know that they have the Thoth especially, are just going to look to try and pinpoint Zyrhoes out again.
So Spacestation Gaming, they're going to obviously want to win this game to make it into a game 3, and I know I've already asked you, fine, okay, what do they need to do differently here, but since the comps are already different, how do you think their gameplay is going to vary?
I think it's going to be pretty similar. Like Taka said, there's still the same amount of pressure, basically, because they have the double hunter, which is definitely better early on in the game. But I do think that Chang'e kind of is a band-aid fix for an issue they had last game, where they're at Fire Giant and they're not really sure what to do, especially when they're getting poked out. So these heals are going to help a lot with that. And also, they also have some self-sustain through Chiron and Artio and stuff like that.
And playstyle-wise, was their aggression okay and maybe just a little misplaced from time to time?
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
It was just a little bit too much. I really like how they were playing. It's just those smaller mistakes that Dignitas will definitely capitalize on.
All right, real quick before we get into the game, looking at the comps, who do you give it to?
I think we see game 3.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I agree.
All right, guys, let's get into game number 1. It is Dignitas versus Spacestation Gaming.
So much, Kelly. Game 2 on the horizon here. Dignitas, they took it exactly how they drew it up in game number 1. Totally, they put together a late game composition. They executed. They took home the W. Across the way, SSG had more of a pick-oriented comp. They couldn't seem to get it together. What's different this time for Jeff and BaRRa?
I think Jeff and BaRRa need to get the ball rolling. That's why they're swapping things up to more of an aggressive Artio. No longer the defensive passive Sylvanas that's sitting in the back line. There was no blink for Jeff in the last game, and I think this could be a different story, especially when Aquarius is going to be the one in the back line peeling with a Chang'e sustain.
Who is he even playing game number 1, Aquarius?
Aquarius was playing the Cerberus.
The Cerberus,
Yes.
yeah. We saw 1 or 2 Stygian Torments, but I think it's a bad thing when I forget what character you were even playing. Just a couple of good kills, but I didn't see the dominance that I really needed to see. The Chang'e, I think, might provide a little bit more of that.
More dominance from Trixtank, not on the Naja this time, but on the Kuzenbo. And as soon as that was snap picked, the camera was on BaRRaCCuDDa. He was just laughing.
Well, look at that right there. SSG starting things off offensively as they're able to go ahead and take care of the speed bump.
That's a good way to start things off, but to flip things around, Dignitas want to get an advantage in the duel lane, really contesting this purple buff. Spacestation securing it, however, looking good so far, but Invian invading a blue buff, really dominating this right side of the map. That's a good way to shut down a Baron Samedi or any mage in the soul lane.
Righty playing the Baron one more time. Loved what we saw in game number 1, honestly.
Yeah.
I think the Baron really controlled those team fights the way I wanted the Cerberus to. Baron would just position himself in those corridors and you would have 1 or 2 options. Either you funnel yourself out to the rest of the team and die in the meat grinder, or you go in the coffin. There was no other option, and Variety covering that was a big deal.
It was easier for Dignitas to spread out against Aquarius' circle, Stygian Torment, as opposed to those Fire Giant fights for Space Station. That funnel from Life of the Party has been such a dominant staple since he's come out, and I'm surprised that he gets out so late in the draft. These teams prioritizing other picks, but really, it's this flex pick Baron, because that's not only in the soul lane that we see it from time to time. Supports out runner trying to be aggressive as well.
I think that Baron has kind of fallen on the priority list as far as picks and bans are concerned because of the power options. And it's not exactly something that I always agree with. We see powerful characters like Freya and Jerkury and all that nonsense, but really what it comes down to is that they just want to be able to prioritize the damage. I think there's less options for control.
No options here for Variety at level 3. Gets the root off. One more basic. Andinster, first blood.
Spacestation Gaming picked that one up nice and easy. Team Dignitas now have to find their answer back. But again, I think Dignitas have a very similar to draft to game number 1. Instead of the Chiron, they have the Ullr, so he'll be a little bit more active early on, and you're seeing it right here. The push into some of the damage. Now Trixtank slowed up. He's going to get hit by the damage from the Hachiman as well. But that's going to be it. A lot of violence here in the left lane. No kill.
But Trixtank getting the health chalice, one more health potion available to him. He's going to be A-okay already at 75% health. All that damage from Space Station negated. The horrific emblem used as well. This could be Dignitas playing aggressive on the purple.
It's absolutely possible. Dignitas do want to stay local. Hail of arrows, that's it. That's the type of commit I expected to see out of Dig. Just go for the shot. If you get it, awesome. But the 3v2 is not a fight Dig want to take at the moment.
So I want to touch upon this Chiron pick that was very early in the draft. I think this was more of a strategy taking it away from Dignitas than it is to employ it for Space Station. Now, Venenu has run a Chiron middle before, dating back to Season 4 in the minor league when he was with Oxygen Supremacy.
And Chiron was his go-to selection when he entered the league as a hunter.
Absolutely, it has a lot of merit, but I think that's a slot that could have been like a Baron Samedi potentially, or something a little bit more aggressive in the mid lane. It's Andinster, the one that's playing aggressive in game number 1, hasn't really slowed down yet in game number 2.
I still need Andy to play the same early game. Everything that happened early for SSG, mentioned a number of times, wasn't the end of the world for Team Dignitas, but that's still what Space Station have to do. They need to copy and paste the first 13 minutes or so from G1 and do that here in G2.
It's because of the blink. Game number 1, Andinster started off game number 2, going for it yet again. Now that it's off cooldown, expect him a little bit more on the right side of the map, but as I say that, he's leaning towards BaRRa's lane.
Blinks in, looks for Arkkyl, gets a little bit of crowd control, hits him with the ultimate, hits him with the zigzag, sends him back to base. JeffHindla with the last hit off of the assist from the jungler. Kill number 2 for Space Station Gaming.
Can't find Trixtank, but this is a similar story to Dignitas in the past game. They lost Arkkyl and Variety, but it was in the reverse order. Arkkyl died first. But Space Station couldn't really amount that lead to anything, despite getting, I believe, 2 Gold Furies in a row. It was the late game Thoth that was the issue. Zyrhoes, in conjunction with Variety's Baron Samedi, they repeating the strategy, and I need to see Space Station shut down Zyrhoes. Not Variety, not Arkkyl, not the side lanes. It's the mid lane you got to worry about if you're facing Dignitas.
Well, right now, I think Ullr is more of the immediate threat. I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. I think that you do want to step on that mid lane Thoth, because he's the guy late game that's going to bring the ball home. But right now, Ullr can kill you.
Yes.
Thoth guy, maybe not so much.
But you got to worry about the late game. So that's why you want to shut him down early. Ullr's going to kill you no matter what. Thoth's going to kill you no matter what, but I would rather cripple a Thoth than I would cripple an Ullr at the end of the day.
And that is what we call the impossible decision. That is what the coaches are looking for. They want the team to argue about this. They want everybody to stand here and take care of it. That's what's going on, and everybody is looking for that question. Can you have the answer? Space Station has yet to find out.
Dimmy is going to need to really put in the work, and this is the last lifeline in game number 2. Being down already 1 game, this is it for Space Station if they don't find something.
Oh, Trixtank takes a dangerous way into the middle lane, does get help, but he's cut down to 60%. Zyrhoes winding up. Not going to launch it just yet, and I like that choice. A little bit more reserved this time around, but that's how Dig want to play the early game. I'm with him.
It's something that they're known for from time to time. They're letting Space Station kind of make those plays happen. They're going to use Space Station's weight against them when the timing is correct. They gave up red buff around this timing actually last game, and a little bit aggressive trying to make the defense, trying to throw out a javelin, but not really worth it to overstep. If you lose the red buff and a couple lives, you're losing the Gold Fury on top of it.
SSG have a much more commanding lead at this point than they did early in game number 1. They only had 500 here or there. At the moment now, 1,500. That's something you can hang your hat on. That's something you can start to build off of, and that's why we see SSG stay omnipresent in the enemy jungle. They're always here. You see the aggressive vision on the left side of the map. Space Station right now want to push, get a pick or two, and then take home Gold Fury.
That's how you take advantage of your early game lead. It's the vision and what you do with that vision. Getting a red buff here and there not only helps your team, but takes away the damage from Zyrhoes. Variety now, level 5, has the ultimate for CC immunity.
Oh, there's the follow-up. The ultimate's going to send Variety back to base. One kill.
Needed one more tick. Variety survives, making the counter rotation. Qvofred can't really make anything happen.
He still went back to base.
That's true. That's a technical kill still.
That's a totally TKO right there. Does force the player out of lane, and it's going to leave him off of the farm charts for just a little bit. So I'm sure Andy wants to kill for his KDA, but he's certainly going to dance anyway as he sends the player back on home.
Not getting that experience is really putting Andinster in a weird situation. Qvofred now a level ahead, just now hitting level 8 is
That's a big
Andinster.
point.
So there's like this half level, full level lead coming from the European jungler.
Because you're investing your time there. And as I bring in the positive side of the TKO, yes, the opponent effectively gets killed. But you're not getting that experience. So he invested his time for nothing on his chart.
And Qvofred making that rotation soaks in that full wave of experience by himself. And that's the important factor a lot of players need to understand is like when somebody needs to back, whether they die, whether they almost die and have to back, somebody needs to cover that wave. Qvofred covering that option.
That's one of the things that you see differently from the top level of play and some of the others. If you've got a chance to watch our minor leagues, see teams like Armada and Insignum. Blasbra actually going to be joining us on the analyst desk later on this week. That's one thing that you'll see them not be able to pick up. J-Mac Tucker representing the Collegiate League. We'll also see some of those players. That's something that you're going to see a little bit different from the top level of play.
Trixtank getting stunned down. Not a real full commit from Space Station. Wanted to chip away at that turtle shell, but yet again, with that health chalice stack, I don't know if Trixtank is ever going to fall soon.
Not just yet. SSG in and out. Red buff stolen. Not very polite, huh?
2 times in a row. Yeah, definitely not polite at all. Somebody should go speak with their mothers after this game.
Well, after game number 1, game number 2, Space Station Gaming want to tell their mothers that they're going to win it. Right now, they're in position for it. They're going to isolate Trixtank here in the mid lane.
But Andinster got disrupted. A beautiful play from Zyrhoes. I believe they did have vision. Yeah, look at that ward right inside that left mid heartbeat. Because of that regular ward, Zyrhoes identified what Andinster was trying to do. When you see a jungler hugging that wall, they're about to either jump over or blink over. The stun from Zyrhoes puts Andinster in combat. He can't make the play happen, forcing a reset from Space Station.
It's a really high-level ward right there. As exactly what you said. Nobody's there except for the player that wants to jump or blink over the wall. Right now, Trixtank trying for a red buff invade of his own, but he's by himself. He's surrounded by SSG jerseys, and BaRRaCCuDDa's going to send him back the hard way. It's 3-0. And SSG are leading this one.
Trixtank a little too ambitious trying, because he's like, man, they took 2 of our red buffs. All right, let me try to get 1 back in return. He was actually just like shaking his head and smiling. It's like, yeah, I done goofed on that one, guys. Might be.
Hey, sometimes you got to go for it. I respect the shot out of Trix, but it doesn't go in his way. That kill, not the greatest look. With that in mind, still an even game for the supports. And just like that, Andy gets caught out. Qvofred gets Team Dignitas on the board.
There's a weakness in Andinster's build. No beads, no Magus Cloak quite yet. You got to take advantage of it if you're Dignitas. Shutting down the momentum from Andinster, a great idea considering that yet again in this early to mid game, he's a part of 100% of Space Station's kills.
Early on, 1,500 lead for the North Americans. Coming into game number 2, they did not have their way in game 1. I attributed it to the overzealousness. The excitement in this room right now, I think, got to Space Station. They got an unlikely defensive set. tried to return it, and just got wall stomped at the end.
There's definitely a thing about playing in front of a crowd, and Spacestation Gaming here have a lot of fans cheering them on, trying to get back into this set. So when they defended that left side Phoenix, they felt the energy in this room, and they did not stop when they shifted that over to the right side. Their only issue was not diving the Phoenix/Titan room, it was not protecting their exposed middle Phoenix from the minions.
Left side, a little bit of a fight here. Artio gonna pop open the cripple field. It is a 3-on-2. But Space Station have 2 more players in the wings making their way here. There's going to be the ultimate on top of Trixtank. He's cut down at 25, forces out the ultimate. Still alive though. Qvofred gets a heal, but he's knocked up, knocked back, and BaRRaCCuDDa knocks him down. Qvofred on the bad side of the BaRRaCCuDDa. Arkkyl answers back.
The chase is on. Arkkyl finds one. They want more. The stun connects onto JeffHindla. That was intended for BaRRaCCuDDa. Beats being used. BaRRa against the world, and the world will not favor BaRRa.
Arkkyl is Arkyl's incredible. I mean, just in the middle of that, pre-beadsing the opposition's crowd control, comes on through, drops everything down, is able to take care of business after the fact. I am always impressed by Arkkyl. Let's take a look at the team fight recap, and the damage speaks for itself. SSG get in there nice and early, but then Dignitas are able to come back after the fact and provide even more damage on top.
And the positioning of where that fight ended for Space Station on the tier 1 tower from Dignitas, there's no way you're getting away from a Thoth all the way down that dual lane, back up to your own. I admire BaRRaCCuDDa's decision-making to go in, because there's no way he was going to survive that one. JeffHindla actually getting stunned out during the juke. Unfortunate set of circumstances. Probably should have been 2 deaths, but Dignitas not allowing the aggression from Space Station to go unpunished, finding some return kills, and is off of the back of Zyrhoes' counter rotation. Too many abilities were used from Qvofred. He got the heal off from his ultimate, making that team fight just more juicy.
Totally, I've seen Dignitas do the same thing about 2 or 3 times now, and Space Station Gaming have, I don't know if the terminology is fallen for it or have just fallen victim to it. But every time SSG go in, they full commit, and Dignitas just kind of sit back, watch somebody die, and then they Hulk out, they walk forward, and Space Station have no answer. How does SSG better respond to Dignitas' counterattack?
Well, if they're going to commit there is no response to the counterattack, unless you have the Giannis the way they did in game 1, because you can retreat using the portals, but Zyrhoes can't retreat from that one.
Nice and easy. Space Station cleaning that one up. Couple of ultimates used, but ain't nothing to write home about. Andy sets up the mid lane, and it's a song as old as time. That one's beautiful as they take down the beast.
But Dignitas in a 4-on-5, they want to really contest these left side mid harpies. Both soul laners are going to start trickling into this team fight, and the Gold Fury going to get pulled by the North Americans yet again.
Zyrhoes is down.
Yes, Zyrhoes is down. No final judgment, but keep an eye on these rotations in mid.
40%, 25%. Gold Fury going to be leashed, not quite. Andy's still on the back line. Here comes Arkkyl and Qvofred. Full release of the Gold Fury. Space Station thinking it over.
Good push from Trixtank, stopping Aqua from getting a great engage. Now Variety's making the impact. Space Station too hesitant about what they wanted to do. Needed to pull the trigger and force the team fight, because now that Zyrhoes is here, this Gold Fury is actually still being attempted.
75, 60, 50% of the objective. Now down to 40, 30%. Space Station looking to hard commit. Just kidding. They're going to peel off. As soon as Zyrhoes drops the window, it's over.
And this is the problem, because they're not fully committing. All the damage done by Dignitas is forcing Space Station out, leaving the window of opportunity to the Europeans. If they wanted to get it, knowing Final Judgment is available, Dignitas could actually secure this, but the thing is they're so methodical about their late game defense and process that they don't want to give any early game lead to Space Station, so they're not going to give the steal potential back.
Ullr's so noisy.
At least it's not the fire and ice one, right?
Oh my God. That's always the worst, when you're sitting there waiting for the minions to spawn. You know, everybody's sitting there by their camps.
Yeah.
And then you're just in lane, you hear, "You won't escape my bow, my axe." I want to eject that player.
Next time I'm in your game, F-Dot, you know what I'm picking?
What are you picking, Tully?
I am picking Ullr.
Really?
And I'm just going to follow you.
I'm picking Chang'e. Lunar Tango skin. and I'm ay until the game is over.
Some cha-cha-cha action.
Space Station and Dignitas dancing it out here around 16 and a half, live from Atlanta, Georgia. hi-rez Expo here at DreamHack. It's been a crazy event. Big, big stage, tons of crowd. It's been a lot of fun here. One of my favorite times of the year.
At the Georgia Congress Center, deep in the heart of the city. Dignitas trying to close out this set. Space Station trying to extend it. Gold Fury has been flirted with, but neither team securing it.
So that's a big deal. These oracles right here, you can see the Gold Fury glowing a certain color. That's going to give the team free vision. So with Dignitas, they want, and I love what Dig are doing here. Dig have Zyrhoes to threaten the objective secure, or more accurately described, the steal. Whereas SSG are the team that are more actively going for it. So Dignitas are prioritizing the oracles. They're willing to fight over it. They want to have vision over the objective, and they want to have the option to steal, but they don't want to aggress on it. They're going to leave the ball in Space Station's court. They're going to go, all right, you want to Gold Fury, you can go for it, homie. But I'm looking at you, and I'm waiting to take it.
It's the lull in the action where teams are waiting for power spike items, and that's the important thing. Needing more penetration is Venenu on the Chiron. Already getting some penetration and anti-healing for Zyrhoes. So I think Dignitas are in a great spot to force team fights. Even Height of Urchin coming from Qvofred relatively early, I would say, for a jungler at the very least. Variety still looking for some more utility. Wouldn't be surprised to see, actually would be surprised to see what he's building next.
If that's a Gem of Isolation, as soon as it's finished, I want Dig to start fighting. They've got, like you said, they've got a lot of the itemization. Space Station are going to start the objective one more time.
Because it could also be E-Staff outside of the gem, and I think both have a little bit of merit. Making the play happen, though, the blink from JeffHindla onto Arkkyl allows Space Station with the objective.
Even though Digger there, SSG take care of the objective, and they bring it home. Now looking for the fight after the fact comes Dignitas. He opens up the vacuum. Arkkyl sends them back to the cleaners. JeffHindla goes down to the hand of the hunter. 5-5.
Oh, Venenu with a masterful shot. He is able to hit one of his ultimate snipes, chasing out Arkkyl till the end of the world, trading out your support and getting the Gold Fury. I'll take that trade every day of the week.
Rough play there for Team Dignitas. Space Station all surrounding the objective, and it looked like Dig just weren't ready. They got up in there, they had some control, but just not enough.
No, definitely not. It was a great zoning idea. JeffHindla blinking into Arkkyl. I believe that Zyrhoes was preoccupied in the mid lane, getting some more farm. Dignitas got caught slipping, but it's happened before in game one where they gave up 2 Gold Furies. You can't count out the black and yellow squad.
Totally, they're both black and yellow.
Oh. Oops.
Dignitas, absolutely more of a late game monster, to be honest with you. I see where you're at. But Space Station, this is, I said it again, I'm repeating myself from game one. This is the game plan. This is what they've got to do. They just have to keep doing it. The problem was they kind of stopped after this mid set because Dignitas was able to wrestle control.
It's got to be a very dominant, Gold Fury attempt, right? They need 3 kills, Gold Fury, tower. That's the kind of lead Space Station need to shut this out of the realm of the defense idea that Dignitas has with this Thoth.
Realm's over there, Tully.
I thought you were going to throw a Yu-Gi-Oh reference at me. When you had that smile, I'm like, I said realm.
The Doubleune, as they say.
Yeah. Fit that one in.
A great look, though, for Team Dignitas. They are repeatedly going to be looking for this late game. And game number 2, no different. Here comes Arkkyl, though, surrounded. He's not going to see the late game with less than that many deaths. A nice play. Death number 3 for the Frenchman.
No beads, no Aegis, no life for the European hunter. But what can Space Station get out of this realistically? Gold Fury down for 2.5 minutes. BaRRaCCuDDa seems confident that they can siege into this tier 2 tower. Some order side pings on the left side, worried about where the rotations are, but even warning defensively, they need to get something in a 5-on-4, but they're not committing.
A full commit here from Dig would be a little bit curious.
It's just there needs to be rotations. You got to pick, group up as 5, get a tier 1 mid tower, get literally anything while you have this power play.
Well, that's what Space Station Gaming are looking to do here. Trixtank not making it easy. But that early Odysseus bow coming out from BaRRaCCuDDa certainly making it a little bit nicer for SSG as they take care of the minions.
It's just easier to siege when you're able to proc the Ark's lightnings. You're going to be able to hit tanks rather easily, but it's hard to get into any sort of damage onto the backline. This item will give you that opportunity.
Now, I say early just because this is usually a last item sort of luxury look, but he's getting it right after exit.
Aquarius in a 1v2 uses the Waxing Moon defensively, has to shell, trying to buy some time. He needs to retreat to his allies.
Well, he's got his allies coming through, but will they get there in time? Venenu fires the shots, BaRRaCCuDDa takes care of one, and here comes the rest of Team Dignitas. Andinster cuts down Qvofred, Venenu cuts down BaRRaCCuDDa. Dignitas get one, but Space Station answer back with one better. It's 2 for 1.
They want Zyrhoes, they force out the beats. Andinster is still diving, he gets the Cobra's kiss. He uses the Jaegers, trying to survive under the tier 2 tower. Jeff getting Zyrhoes.
3 for 1 at the moment. And SSG don't look like they're done, but neither is Team Dignitas. Arkkyl gets number 7 for the European squad. JeffHindla on the run. You can't escape his bow. The double kill for Arkkyl.
Space Station yet again biting off more than they can shoot in the exact location as game number 1. That tier 2 tower into the Phoenix dive. Did not favor them in game 1. A similar but not exact story here in 2. Dignitas give up the Pyromancer, but they're not worried.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Space Station have made this mistake. At first, it was Dignitas playing better, having the better strategy, and surprising SSG. Now, you know that they're holding the cards. You know what's coming. And they keep walking right into it.
It was a perfect engage, actually, onto Zyrhoes, being able to pull him outside of the tier 2 tower, but he still had the Aegis to be a little bit deeper. And at that point, Jeff was like, you know what? We got to kill Zyrhoes.
Yeah.
This is the threat from Dignitas.
That's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Hard to fault Space Station's thought process, but the results are the same, you know? There's the ultimate. Qvofred's gone. We'll see you later. Unceremonious kill. The crowd loves it anyway. Space Station Gaming, definitely the favorite of the folks out here at DreamHack.
It's Jeff and BaRRaCCuDDa, baby, getting the Gold Fury, the Season 1 World Champions. But look at this, going for another red buff invade.
And look, this is a big deal. Space Station are going to look for the retreat, right? Okay, yes. Space Station are going to look for the retreat. And I think that's the first time that they've really kind of noticed what has kind of been bringing them down. Maybe not noticed, but responded correctly.
And finally, with a 5-on-4 power play, they will commit. Trying to make it happen. Andinster commits onto Arkkyl. Ultimate from BaRRaCCuDDa, trying to peel, but it's too late.
JeffHindla gets in the back line. Trixtank falls down to the mid lane. Chiron, 2 down for Team Dignitas. You have the counter. Attack from Team Dignitas. This was SSG answering correctly. You know why they surged all in on the left-hand side? One, they retreated after they got the Gold Fury, and they go back in because they know where everybody's at.
Andinster still making the plays onto Zyrhoes. Space Station locked down the Fire Giant, getting another one onto Qvofred. Andinster with a double.
Here's going to be number 3. Aquarius picks it up for SSG. The tier 2 tower is in trembles. And they're going to keep walking down the right side lane. Totally, game 1, this was a mistake. Game 2, this is how they bring it home.
It's a necessity. The North American fans here are going wild for Space Station Gaming, trying to extend this series to a game 3. They have to end. 25 on Zyrhoes, 35 on BaRRaCCuDDa. They don't need minions. They need this win.
JeffHindla walking into the throne room. The bear bomb in the middle. Ultimate out of Aquarius. Half HP on the Titan. Space Station Gaming surrounding it. We're going to a game 3.
Impressive performance out of the North Americans. The crowd was cheering, and that was a quick end. When you get an opportunity like that, you gotta act fast as Space Station Gaming, not one to falter.
And I love that they win the game in exactly the same fashion that they lost game number 1 in. It's all about the bigger picture and understanding the value of the variables. A 10,000 gold lead compared to a 4,000 gold lead. 3 players sitting down for 50+ seconds. That's how you siege the Phoenix. That's how you bring it home. We're split down the middle. The rubber match upcoming. Kelly, let's break it down.
Man, Tom and Toli, thank you guys so much. What an amazing game number 2. Everything you guys said that Spacestation needed to do in this game, they did.
Yeah, Andinster really popped off. He was looking for picks all across the map, early game, mid game, even late game. That's kind of what snowballed them into the win.
I gotta say though, I really miss this. The vibe from the audience here was electric. And of course, everyone loves Spacestation, everyone loves BaRRa and Jeff here. But there's a lot of fans for Dignitas too, man. You could hear the audience cheering for them as well. I don't think that there was actually too much of a favoring here. I think everyone's just really excited for amazing Smite, which we just saw in that game.
It's hard to ignore the hype as well. When you see Dignitas making a fantastic play and then it's immediately answered back by Spacestation, and it's just been that constant aggression from Andinster that he has not been letting go of. He's been right after Zyrhoes since the very start, right after Arkkyl since the very start, even looking for those moments to punish variety for some of these less aggressive solo lane picks, and they basically prevented Dignitas from ever hitting that team fighting stride.
Yeah, Andy went blink on Serqet, which is obviously a must-buy most of the time, but sometimes it's a toss-up whether you should go beads or blink because of CC and stuff like that. And Dignitas definitely had a lot of CC, but Andy is just continuing to go blink on Serqet. He just wants to make all the plays across the map.
Looking at the game stats right now, is there anything that stands out to you guys?
Andy's KDA, he's had not only a fantastic performance in Game 2 here on the Serqet now, but even in Game 1, despite the loss, he still looked excellent on that Serqet. I would not be surprised if we finally saw Dignitas choosing to ban it away from him or take it for themselves and have Qvofred run it instead.
But if they ban out Serqet in the first round, then what are they going to give up? Are they going to give up Odin, Athena?
They have been banning Odin and Athena, so maybe they have some strat to play against Athena, something like a Chiron or something, so maybe they can give that up, but Andy's looking too good on the Serqet, and he's kind of dominating the map right now.
The teams right now, I believe, are taking a break. They're taking a moment to collect themselves because this is it, right? This team has to go home, whoever loses. It's a best of 1 now. Looking at this replay right here from Andinster, who's, like you guys said, that 10.5 KDA right there, insane.
He's been on point as well with all of these Cobra's kisses. He's been connecting them either both hits onto one target or multiple target spread, and anytime you're able to capture 2 people into that Cobra's Kiss, it's just such an easy lineup for the Deathbane, so much damage. I think Arkkyl also had a really tough time on the Ullr, not just in this play particularly, but the Artio, the Kerple field. Jeff was able to go so much deeper as opposed to the previous game on that Sylvanas. If you're too far out of position on a Sylvanas, you're not getting out of there unless you're dying. But with the Artio, you have such a long dash, you have multiple ways to bail yourself out.
Another thing is, not only is Andy looking for plays, he's looking for plays on characters that have their actives down. So if you notice, a lot of these times that's just a free kill because his teammates, whether it's Jeff or whether it's Fen or possibly even Aqua, they're forcing the enemy actives, and then Andy hears that and comms, and he's going on that character, either looking for them in the jungle or just in the middle of a team fight.
I asked you guys before, what is Spacestation Gaming going to have to do differently from Game 1 to Game 2? I'm going to ask that now for Dignitas. What are they going to have to do differently? Because it almost seemed like a repeat of Game number 1, right? Like Spacestation had the early lead, they were 3-0 at 10-minute mark, but then Dignitas won that huge team fight. What did Spacestation do correctly, and what does Dignitas now have to do in return?
I think Dig played a little less clean in that second game because they were getting picked by Andy basically on cooldown. I think it was in mid when Zyrhoes was playing pretty far up, and Ben dashed on him with the Chiron, and then Andy went on him, and that was like a really big pick because it allowed him to look for more picks. And another thing is the first game, even though they lost some Gold Furies, a lot of times they didn't lose much else after it. That second game, they got every red buff. They got, I think, 3 Gold Furies, and they lost more than just the objective, which is a big deal.
Anatoly was saying that Zyrhoes was the main problem for Spacestation Gaming. Do you agree?
I don't really feel like Zyrhoes was the main problem. I think that we also haven't really seen much of a showing from Qvofred. He's had some moments on that Erlang, but for the most part, I definitely don't think that the pick is giving them nearly as much as what they were maybe expecting it to bring.
Yeah, it seems like Spacestation is really prepared for the Erlang pick. They're letting them first pick it. They're immediately picking Serqet into it for Andinster, which he's obviously comfortable with. And it seems like they have some supports to go against it as well, like Sylvanas and Artio, which are good picks against it.
Talking about this Zyrhoes versus Venenu matchup here, was it the fact that he had the ADC that really gave him the advantage? It was the Chiron pick?
It's just having the masterful shot, I think. The slow, that way every single time Zyrhoes dashed away, all Venenu was looking to do was get one auto on him. That way he could have that proc available whenever, and he would normally choose to activate it or activate the masterful shot as soon as Zyrhoes finished the dash. So that way he'd be slowed. It would give him more, or give Andinster ample time to catch up with the ambush, and then that's an easy Cobra's Kiss into the Deathbane, dead Zyrhoes every single time.
We talked about it as well. It's one of Ben's definitely one of his most comfortable picks. And it seems like Spacestation knows how to play around it a lot. As you can see, BaRRa went Odysseus bow, 4th item. A problem that most Hunter comps, double Hunter comps usually have is that they don't have any AoE damage. So BaRRa actually went Oboe, 4th item, which helps with that. And then Chiron, of course, has the ultimate to follow up, which is basically a mage ultimate. So.
Game number 3 going to be starting in just a few moments, everyone. Spacestation definitely seemed a bit more cautious there, but we did see Jeff make the same misplays that they made in game number 1, where he was a little too aggressive. He's like, no, I want that Zyrhoes kill. I'm going to keep charging in and push past the tier 2 tower. Is that aggression okay when the rest of his team is following up on it, or could that make the misplay that gives Dignitas the advantage?
I have no faults with it, just because of the fact that it was Aquarius on the Chang'e. Had Aquarius been on any other type of solo laner, I don't think that would have worked out nearly as well as it did, but because they had the Chang'e to provide all of that team sustain, that was also making a pretty significant difference throughout a lot of those team fights. And also one of the primary reasons I think Dignitas were really struggling, because beforehand in game 1, they could rely on the Cosine Spirits from the Baron Samedi. He would be able to give that team proc heal to everybody, and this time around it was matched by Aquarius, if not better, from the Chang'e.
I'm also not mad about that dive because they did trade Jeff for Zyrhoes, which I think is perfectly fine. But at the same time, BaRRa had retreated and lifestealed, I think of like a mid camp or something, and they were doing pyro the entire time. So even though they got a bit punished for being pretty aggressive, they were able to get an objective off of it, which is always the right thing to do.
Something that you were just talking about the solo lane there, I do want to talk a little bit about Variety versus Aquarius and how the solo lane has kind of fallen out of favor, like what we saw in last season. How can they impact the game besides just farming?
Well, that's exactly why we're seeing the gods like the Baron Samedi, like the Chang'e, because you're relying a little bit more on your team fighting stages as opposed to the laning phase. Laning phase used to have a little bit more of an impact. I think Fine probably have a little bit more experience from that role directly, but for the most part, solo lane just doesn't influence the matches heavily anymore, so you tend to see picks go there that teams just want to have throughout most of their big engagements.
There's definitely things you can do. Like we saw in game 1 that Aqua had a really big rotation, I think like 15 minutes into the game, maybe a little bit earlier. And usually you see solo laners start to really impact the game about 20 minutes in when they hit the team fights and everything like that. But Aqua had a really big rotation game 1. Unfortunately, it didn't help them get the win, but I still think Aqua's playing really well. And all you have to do really is survive the laning phase, make sure you don't die at all, which, I mean, Variety, I think, has died a couple times to ganks. And just get to those team fights where you're going to be a lot more impactful with your sustain or maybe just your CC or something.
You say those team fights really start around the 20-minute mark there, but as we saw, Spacestation ended that game very quickly, and I'm guessing they're going to try and do that again because Dignitas, the later it gets, the more powerful they get.
It's all about that pressure. I mean, we talked about it. Spacestation has drafted 2 comps already that have basically pressure in every lane, so if they want to win the game, they're going to have to win it by like the 25-minute